you know that in the financial year ending March 2024, digital payment frauds in India ballooned to 5 and hit a whooping 14 rupees. 14, enough to make even the most hardened criminals, cyber criminals, blush. Meanwhile, UPI, which has become like the most ubiquitous mode of payment in India, has has seen like a huge surge in transaction value, and it's reached an eye-popping 2 rupees. Yes, that is trillion with a T. Now, while this digital payment boom has made our lives definitely a lot easier, a lot convenient. I mean, we don't have to think about fumbling for cash or waiting in a long queue to collect our change. But the thing is, it's also created a playground for cyber criminals. And these cyber bandits, they're getting craftier by the day, and they're finding new and innovative ways to exploit the very system that was designed to make our lives easier. So in today's session, we're going to be unraveling some of these tangled webs of the digital fraud that's been happening in India. We'll explore some of the most common types of fraud, right from phishing, wishing to SIM swaps, God, that is a tongue twister, and delve into the cutting edge technologies that's being used to outsmart these digital bandits. Plus, we'll also take a look at, if time permits, the latest RBI framework on alternative ways of preventing and detecting frauds as well. And also think of some of the security layers that banks and fintech players can add in order to make payments a lot more, well, less frictionless, if you would. By the way, what's in it for you? Whether you're a business owner who's worried about protecting your bottom line, or a financial profession who's interested in staying ahead of the curve, or just a consumer who wants to make sure that all the transactions we're doing online keeps our money safe, this session will be packed with thrilling and sometimes perilous landscape of digital payments in India. But some customary introductions and ground rules or house rules, if you would. If you are new here, welcome. I'm your host Kamalika Podar, and I conduct these weekly community podcasts where we delve into one hot topic from the world of fintech. And since it's a community podcast, the aim is that we all contribute and learn from each other. So while I may be like a moderator setting the structure up, but at any point in time, if you feel that you wish to either point out some discrepancy that I've mentioned, or you have a different point of view, or you just want to add your experiences, please, if you are in the LinkedIn audio room, feel free to just raise your hand, which is the little hand icon at the bottom right corner of your screen, and I will pull you right up on the screen, and we'll have an amazing discussion and add value to the entire community. All right, so let's get started. First, we'll pick up some of the factors that are contributing to the rise of digital frauds in India, and this I broadly bucketed it into 3 categories. One is the technological factors, then the societal factors, and lastly the operational factors. So let's start with technology, which I think all of us know is the increased internet penetration and access coupled with financial inclusion. So we all know that, with Jio coming in, internet became a lot more affordable, and the government through their Jan Dhan accounts also had a push towards financial inclusion, which resulted in a lot of people getting onboarded onto and getting familiarized with digital payment methods. For example, 2016, when UPI was launched, it literally revolutionized digital payments in India and put India on the map of technological and fintech innovation world over. And since then, by 2024, we've seen 200 trillion rupees being transacted via UPI. So this is truly, in terms of impact, democratized financial services and, unfortunately, expanded the target base for fraudsters. Because many new users, they lack the necessary awareness and skills to protect themselves from digital frauds. That, of course, brings us to the societal factor, which is the lack of financial literacy amongst our users, where even the basic principles of and the ability to manage their finances, because they lack it, it makes them a lot more susceptible to greed, and because of that greed, susceptible to fraudsters' attacks. And despite RBI's efforts to educate consumers through a lot of high-profile campaigns, like the ones that were featuring Amitabh Bachchan, by the way, many users still fall prey to such phishing scams and social engineering attacks. For example, there was a report which was published, and we will be talking about the company that's published this report as well, where they said that close to 40% of the cyber frauds reported in early 2024 were all voice phishing scams. And it was a very scary sort of a scam because people were impersonating using deep fakes. And people were actually falling prey to it and transferring a lot of money. So that is, of course, the societal aspect of it. And finally, we come to the operational side of it, which I think is a collective failure of the fintech and financial institutions in the country, because in a race to capture market share and to show that, rapid growth, many financial institutions and fintech players have definitely relaxed their security controls, their KYC checks and norms, which has made their systems a lot more vulnerable to cyber attacks. For example, I don't know how many of you remember, but Kotak Mahindra Bank, HDFC Bank had both been barred by RBI from onboarding new customers till they fixed all the issues and all the security gaps that were there with their digital platforms. And of course, I think what's more fresh in our mind is the recent Paytm Payments Bank saga as well. So while, I understand the need for pushing for rapid digital transformation, we should not take shortcuts when it comes to security protocols, because that leads to a rise. You risk having a rise in fraud. And I remember this very, very interesting concept that someone had once mentioned, which is that banks and fintechs are essentially in the business of managing risk. So if you're not able to manage the monetary risk over here, then really, do you have a valid business use case? Anyways, that brings us to the types of digital frauds, and some of the very common, I'll be walking you through 6 different types of, fraud types that I could think of. And one of which, by the way, is also the UPI frauds that have been happening recently. And since we have Shubhrodeep in the audience, Shubhrodeep, at any time, if you feel you'd like to contribute, I would love to have you up on stage as well. But yes, starting with some of the common types of frauds. First is account takeovers, where typically what happens is the fraudsters somehow manipulate users and get unauthorized access to their accounts. This often happens through either stealing their credentials from the dark web or through a lot of these social engineering and phishing scams. Like, for example, one of the examples I can think of is in 2023, a lot of major Indian banks had reported multiple instances where customers' accounts were their credentials were being stolen and obtained through phishing emails. And then the fraudsters were draining their accounts of all of their money, and this led to a lot of financial losses. I think the report which I read said that 55% of all frauds was actually an account takeover related fraud. And then comes the social engineering and phishing frauds, where you're forced to give up a lot because you get scammed through the links that are sent to you, which look very real. Like recently also, my mother received one where it said HDFC instead of bank, it was BENK, and the rest of the URL was absolutely like what HDFC's URL looked like. So yes, if you fall prey to it, the look and feel, all of these are deceptive enough to make you give up your credentials. But yes, you end up then getting defrauded over there. So be very, very cautious when you're clicking on any links. Then we have this very interesting type of fraud, which is the mule account frauds. Now, mule accounts are bank accounts that are used by fraudsters to transfer illicit funds, which involves an unknowing or an unwitting accomplice. For like in 2023, I think it was the Enforcement Directorate, but I'll have to go back and check again. They'd uncovered like a network of mule accounts, which was being used to launder money from various online scams. And they'd done like a series of arrests all through 2023. By the way, the TV series Jamtara is on the basis of this ED crackdown. So you may want to go back and, kind of revisit that. Then we have the card and internet transaction based frauds, which thankfully, thanks to RBI and their very prudent two-factor authentication in India, it is a lot lesser. The skimming, cloning, transaction-related frauds that happen, it's a lot lesser than what it happens in the Western world. Carrying on with the other types of frauds that happen, one is the SIM swap. Now, this is a bit of a tongue twister for me as well, but this is when fraudsters manage to get like a duplicate SIM card of the victim, and they clone the victim's mobile, and all of the SMS OTP based transactions that happen, they use those to drain the victim's real bank accounts. I think in Mumbai last year, one businessman had lost close to about 2 crores of transactions after they were able to duplicate his SIM and get access to his OTPs. Then, of course, is all of the fake UPI apps and the fake UPI links where fraudsters create very authentic looking phone pay version of the app. Again, you know that there's probably a very nuanced sort of a difference in the phone pay app that's there, and they use that to get access to your entire UPI pin and all of those, and then of course drain out your account. I remember one tweet where the user had downloaded an app and the next day, over a series of 10,000 transactions, her account was full out. So yes, those were also some of the frauds that had happened in the last year. There have been a lot of other types of frauds, which is these voice-based scams, or even these video calls where, you know, someone impersonates being the police from the customs department and says that there is some we found contraceptives on your that's directed towards you from abroad, so you pay us this, we won't lodge a case. So those sort of frauds have also increasingly been happening in the recent past. But of course, that's not to say that there hasn't been any response to stop these frauds from you know, spreading. I think not just financial institutions like the RBI, but even private institutions have been doing a lot to kind of identify, detect and prevent these frauds. Now we'll come to RBI and what RBI has been doing in a little bit, if time permits especially. But before I get into what BioCatch and Bureau ID have been doing, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to a good friend of mine, Aadhaar. Hi Aadhaar, a warm welcome. Please do introduce yourself and go ahead with what you wanted to contribute on the topic.
Hi Kamal, really nice to be on your audio event after a long time.
Yes, it's been a while.
It's a pretty nice initiative that you're holding, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to warn my parents, and I have to consistently keep sending them reminders to be careful with.
Yeah.
But there's one other worry that I have heard, and while I do not think it's a very big worry, but I was wondering if you have any input on it, since you're on the payment side of things. You know, these days we have contactless payments, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And there are so many people who expressed worry as if they're walking by somebody and somebody decides to swipe their card and...
Oh, absolutely.
But one way I see that it gets prevented is even the bank only allows you maybe setting up to 10,000 per day. So that's there. However, is it really a major risk?
Oh, absolutely. And I think when it comes to a lot of these card-based frauds, I think what a lot of people don't realize is they enable contactless payments, and that means that if your wallet where you store your card is not RFID protected, you're actually susceptible to, suppose say you're traveling in a crowded Mumbai local, anyone who has even enabled, so nowadays a lot of POS machines come plugged in with your mobile. You can turn your mobile handset, your smartphone, into a POS machine. Even those can be used to kind of, you know, siphon money out of your account. So the first thing, and this was way back in 2018 when my dad got his first contactless card. The first thing I told him is, Papa, you need to get yourself an RFID protected wallet, otherwise don't take your card out. That is, I think, something a lot of people, but having said that, we must realize that credit card penetration in India is pretty low. It's not that high, and people who have a debit card typically default to using UPI instead. So chances of people, like you said, you know, the chances of these kind of contactless frauds happening is probably lower. But that said, it's not completely a no. So yeah, and by the way, what my dad found out, so my dad, by the way, just for context, happens to be in the leather industry. So his company also makes a lot of these wallets and stuff like that. So when they were kind of figuring out how can they also make these RFID protected wallets, he was like, you know what, all you need to do is just have a thin aluminum foil around your wallet, and that protects your cards. It prevents radio waves from getting in. So a lot of us don't know these tiny hacks also, and I'm sure aluminum foil is definitely there in everybody's house in India. So it's all about just using that in our wallets and protecting ourselves from these frauds.
And that's such a cheaper alternative to go to the market to buy.
Now I'm wondering if I'm kind of, stymieing away my dad's business. So sorry. Sorry, Papa. I didn't mean to do this to your business, yaar.
But yeah, that's good to know. At least for India being a developed.
Absolutely.
But at least I'm happy that they are not at the risk of credit card fraud.
Absolutely. All right. So getting back to, thank you so much for that, Aadhaar, and that was a brilliant question. But yes, segueing back to, what institutions have been doing to monitor, detect, and prevent fraud in that order. So there are two institutions that I found pretty interesting, and I know that there are a bunch of others. The reason I caught on to these two is because a lot of the research I did for this particular podcast, it comes from some of the research paper that these two institutions wrote. So first was BioCatch and the next was Bureau INC. Now BioCatch uses a combination of behavioral biometric intelligence to detect and prevent fraud. And while I could not find from their report the banking partners that they have onboarded, but they claim that the partner banks that they've integrated with, they were able to detect 90% of the mule accounts, and this significantly reduced the potential fraud losses that could have happened in those banks. Next was Bureau INC, and they have like a very interesting set of identity score, device scores, and money mule score as well, which is to help financial institutions detect potential money muling and account takeover frauds that happen at the onboarding stage itself. So this score uses a combination of things like your device fingerprint, your device's behavior also, like if it's changed SIMs rapidly, a lot of behavioral pattern of the usage, and a lot of device related historical data also to improve detection rates of frauds. And what they had quoted in their report was that when it comes to mule attacks, they were able to, 60% of the cases, they were able to detect mule attacks for leading banks. And the monetary value of the fraud losses that they prevented was close to about 40. So those are like, the typical kind of. So when I was digging into these reports, I kind of found some very interesting algorithms for fraud detection and prevention. So I just thought, my product brain always kicks in and I want to know how these things get done. So I just thought I'll kind of briefly explain some of these models that are there. But obviously not get too much into the technicalities of it because it would probably bore a lot of you. But yes, the top 6 algorithms or top 5 algorithms that were there. The first one was known as a gradient boosting mechanism or a gradient boosting machine, which is basically a collection of different learning techniques. And these learning techniques individually are pretty weak learning machines or weak learning decision trees. But when you combine their outputs together, it creates a very strong predictive model. Now, this was interesting because this means you don't need a lot of very high level of computing power over there. Because iteratively, the model keeps improving upon the scores, reducing the error from the previous iteration. So, GMB is typically known for the high level of accuracy and low false positive rates. So, this makes a lot of the real-time fraud detection scenarios a lot easier to manipulate and prevent also. Then you have a advanced version of gradient boosting, which is known as extreme gradient boosting. And here, so the decision trees algorithms that are used in this are slightly different. So this leads to a much more better improved prediction accuracy as compared to a gradient boosting. Then the third type is, of course, I think most of us now know of it, which is neural networks, thanks to, the boom in AI, where it is a deep learning model and it can learn about complex data patterns. And there are multiple layers of interconnected neurons that are processing inputs, generating outputs, the outputs of which goes into the next layer, so on and so forth. So that the true positives that are there, you can increase the rate of the true positives while successfully reducing the false positives. That was the third. What was the fourth one? The fourth one was something known as isolation trees. Isolation forests. Now this is an anomaly detection algorithm. So it's able to isolate randomly selected features and then split those randomly selected features into attributes so that it can quickly detect the anomalies within a pattern. Then fifth is an autoencoder. This again is a kind of a neural network, but the difference between this is that this is an unsupervised machine learning neural network over here. And yes, again, this is for anomaly detection and pattern recognition. So that's about all that I had planned for today. Meanwhile, the floor is open for everyone else to kind of come in and contribute to this amazing topic. And if you guys have had any experience with frauds and how have you been able to stop fraudsters, I would love to hear from all of you. Yes, we have a good friend of mine again, Swati Kiran, up on stage. Hi Swati, how are you doing? And please do give us a brief introduction and then we'll get on with the topic that we're discussing.
Hi, Monica. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am amazing, my dear friend. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, you're welcome. For people who don't know me, I am Swati Kiran. I basically am into digital marketing right now. And yeah, that's it. And from next week, I've already joined a new company. So
Wow, congratulations.
I'm into the corporate world right now. So that's it. So yeah, cyber frauds. Yeah, I had a very unique cyber fraud happening to me.
Oh.
Not to me, my friend actually.
I hope
Have
the
you
money
heard
is
about-
safe.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't. He didn't pay the money because he had shown me. Have you heard about the e-challan scam? Yeah, my friend went to that also.
Was this the one where they were pretending to be from the customs department?
No, it is the one pretending to be from the RTO.
Oh, no, I've not heard of this. Please do educate us.
So it's basically like you'll get they'll say that basically you'll get an SMS from a random number where they're saying that, and people, like my friend, he didn't notice that, and he was like, I don't know what happened, he just shared it to me, and I just said that, bhai, dekho, agar ye government se hoti hai, message hoti hai. So it was from a personal number. So I said,
I do hope you raise this as, on the cyber fraud, cyber cell.
yeah, I did raise this because because one of my his father is also in the field of police, or he's a
thank
police
God.
officer. So
Oh, thank God.
discussed with uncle also.
Oh, that is great. Wow, that is scary. Thanks so much for educating us, Swati. Meanwhile, we have a good friend of mine, Amit Nayak ji, who's been contributing a lot to this community podcast, and I've been learning so much from Amit ji and his posts. So, Amit ji, a very warm welcome. Please do introduce yourself briefly, and I would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Kamalika. It's always been my pleasure to attend your audio event, and wishing you all the best for your career and your success.
Thank you so much, Amit ji.
Thank you. How are you, by the way?
I am good, Amit ji. How are you doing?
Yeah, going great, ma'am. I have a little bit experience to share with everyone.
Yes, please.
See, there was a call to one of the friends from my mobile number asking for the money. Now I don't know how it had happened, but he called me immediately and he said, you had called me, आपने phone किया. I said I didn't call you, but I don't know it was from my number, my SIM. It was originally.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't call him either.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just wanted to know how it could have happened. Any idea?
I would honestly, I'm not sure, but this could be a case of someone having been able to clone your SIM. You should definitely, report this immediately to your mobile operator and just get your SIM reissued to you.
With the same.
Sorry, Kamalika.
Yes.
I'm interrupting you.
Please.
Amit ji, the thing is that it could be one thing that someone is tapping into your phone, like your phone calls forward ho gaya hoga.
Okay.
You have to check that and all, because sometimes अगर call forward होती है, they get access to all your details, like number भी use कर सकते, आपको bank open.
Amit ji, I would honestly urge you to please quickly get your SIM blocked, reissued to you in a new number. And all SIM that are active, you should probably immediately ask, your...
This has happened only once.
Let's not take a risk, Amit ji. It's very scary.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Kamalika. Thank you, Swati Kiran.
Thank you, Swati, for that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Amiji. I know Amiji also a long time. I've been listening. He also used to attend my events also.
Yeah.
I know. Definitely. And I went to a website where it's completely open.
We're truly inspired, despite having achieved so much in your career, You manage
Thank you.
to learn every day, and that really inspires us. Thank you so much, Amitji.
Thank you so much. Bye, bye, bye. Take care. Bye.
All right, Aman, I would love to hear from you as well, my friend. Aman, please do give us a brief introduction, and yes, let's discuss.
Yeah, can you hear me, Komlika?
Yes, Aman, I can hear you.
Komlika, I was working Morgan Stanley till the last year.
Wow.
In statements, confirms, and client confirmations on digital side. The end ones are going wealth management, right? If you do settlement, they are digitally sending throughout US retail and outside US they call it global wealth management, which they send to Europe, EMEA, and other Australia, right? Other continents. So I was part of the frauds. Like one of the systems was frauds, right? Where obviously in Christmas times in US frauds increase.
Oh,
So what
wow.
I'm saying is that is what I do professionally, but personally, all of you need to be very careful. What is happening is even in our telecom world, right? Be it Airtel, Vodafone, they have algos who are tracking you for every payment that you make every month, and they have stopped accepting cash. Now, what happens is, Komalika, they are studying your patterns when they say either you pay through your credit card, right? Online, or come to stores. Now, understand the bigger picture, all of you. Intention is not just to pay, study your card pattern. So, every time I make a payment, even for a simple mobile, I immediately go and check next day. Get it printed on your saving book account. Basically, what I'm saying is we all are from technology, yet I am wary of technology. You get it?
Wow.
What I'm saying.
Wow.
So I don't think technology is helping us. It is taking the aspect, making us actually unaware. So all of you, I
That's so
humble
true,
request. Time you make a payment, it is like right. It was in the US when Amex was working. Now everybody is studying algos. There are algos on top of algos who are studying Komalika. Each and every transaction move of
So
yours
true.
and predicting how much money is in your bank accounts, be it credit card, debit card, or prepaid cards, and making you offers accordingly immediately next.
That is so true.
So my humble request to all of you is, being technology, be an antidote of technology in the interest of risk management.
Very
That's
true.
all.
That is so true, because I honestly I can't remember the last time that I actually asked for a copy, the physical receipt of the transaction that I made using my card, which is very scary now that I think of it. Of course, I am someone who does.
Yeah, just immediately communicate next day, all of you, right?
Yeah.
Whatever bank payment book account
True.
or check your accounts.
True. I am someone who does diligently check, go back to my banking account and then banking app and check the transactions. I am someone who does that. But I think keeping a important, especially if we want to backtrack and make sure all of these transactions were actually made by us or not. Thank you so much for that.
At least somebody can go back and, make a validation on based on
Exactly.
the physical claim you have.
Absolutely. All right, next up we have someone very, very interesting, Prem Kumar ji. I'm so excited to have you, Prem ji, because you've been on the security and the tech side of things. So I would love to hear from you, Prem ji. Please.
Hi Kamalika, hi everybody. I was listening to what we are talking about. Aman telling something about the bank digital part, and Swati Kiran talking about, and Aadhaar telling her story and stuff like. So very interesting. But what I would like to tell is, now you should protect your digital assets, which are very, very important.
Yes.
Digital assets can be your social media accounts, what you post, what kind of spending that you do, where you shop, and where you travel. So these are all pointers where I think Aman was making a point. Everybody knows what kind of a transaction that the banks, especially if you look for a loan or anything, you apply for one in one bank, the next 10 minutes you'll get 10 calls coming from various other banks saying that do you need a personal loan or anything, because the database is available for these guys to talk and see. So protect your assets as secure as possible. As you were telling in the initial period, have your scanner cards or RFID cards secured in your wallet. That is a very key essential thing today, because The minimum payment is, I think, is put to 2,500 rupees is what I think they can each
absolutely.
location. The borders can take that kind of money from you. 10 people, 2,500 in a day is 25,000 for that guy who
True.
is a WhatsApp. So,
Yep.
what we should look at is avoid giving everywhere and anywhere your number and the email ID. That becomes a bigger challenge nowadays, because you get carried away in the malls and stuff where you normally write down or put your number. People ask Aadhaar cards and stuff like that. Coming up with the digital DPDP Act very soon, the law is formed, right?
Yeah.
So thing that is going to be on the digital realm has to be given a clear mandate by the collector to say why this data is collected, how is it getting processed,
Correct.
when is it
Correct.
archived, and when is it getting deleted. So these information has to be given by the body that is going to collect this data.
Yes.
That is very, very important. So
Yes.
that is going to be the mandate. The second point I wanted to make was that how many people have given their Aadhaar cards to procure a SIM? Have you people, when you sign, have you put a date under it? 99% people
Do
don't
not.
put a date.
Oh, very
If you-
interesting. Yes.
So if you put a date for a check, it is about 3 months. For your signature, from the date of processing, it's about 3 months. So 90 days is a period valid. If you don't put a date, I can take your copy and take anything in that this one.
Very
and
true.
that is the biggest issue that we have in India, at least, where we have Aadhaar cards, PAN cards freely roaming around in Xerox shops.
No, this has been a very illuminating discussion, and really, I could not have done it without the advice coming from everybody today. And I've personally learned so much. So, thank you so much, Premji, for this, reminder that whenever we share our PAN, Aadhaar, or any ID proof, we should keep an end date for it. But with that, I think that is a closing call for us to come to an end to today's session. I definitely enjoyed and learned so much from everybody who came up on stage. So thank you so much, everyone, for contributing. Do take care, and I'll see you again in the next week. Bye.
Bye.